Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Welcome to another episode of Action Video Game Talk. I'm your host, Scott Action Jackson. Thanks for joining me today, or tonight, or whenever you're watching or listening to this episode. We have another list of news articles to go through, so let's just hop right into them. Bungie just pushed through another big Destiny patch, paving the way for next week's release of the first expansion. To prepare for the Dark Blow, your favorite exotic weapons have likely received a tweak. First and foremost, upgrading exotic weapons and armor no longer requires Ascendant materials. A new material, exotic shards, will be required to access the final node. These are acquired by breaking down exotics or via Zur for 7 strange coins. Exotics will now have a higher starting attack level, but the gap between new and fully leveled is narrower. There have also been changes to the Vault of Glass raid, including a fix for a bug introduced in the last update. Atheon will now correctly teleport 3 players through the time gates. The promised currency system for the basic materials have been introduced too. Crucible and Vanguard marks can now be traded for spin metal, relic iron, spirit bloom, and helium fragments. So this new update brings quite a bit of changes, well, at least as far as like leveling up your weapons and stuff, especially the exotic stuff. So the exotic weapons and armors no longer requires Ascendant materials. It has its own new material called exotic shards to, I guess, level up the final node to level up the gear. And in order to get those, you can either break down exotics that you get, or you can either buy the exotic shards from Zur for 7 strange coins. Of course, that's when you're able to find Zur wherever he's located every weekend. And it's nice that exotics will now have a higher starting attack level. There's been changes to the Vault of Glass raid, fixing a bug. It says Atheon will now correctly teleport 3 players through the time gates. How's correctly teleporting them helping figure out, what ones they're going to teleport? Because I heard it was kind of like, okay, at one point it was like random 3, and it was like a certain 3 at this point. So the basic materials needed to help level up some of your stuff can now be purchased. So you don't need to farm all of them. Of course you can probably still farm them, which wouldn't cost you any actual currency. But you can also use Crucible and Vanguard marks to buy the materials. Assassin's Creed Unity and Assassin's Creed Rogue are still brand new, but eyes are already looking toward the next title. Assassin's Creed Victory, a game set in Victorian England, is reportedly up next. Kotaku first broke the news with screenshots and a logo from a source. Ubisoft has since confirmed to Joystick that the assets, including the video allegedly seen by Kotaku, are authentic. According to a statement from Ubisoft subsequently sent us as well, the game is under development at the Quebec studio. It is always unfortunate when internal assets not intended for public consumption are leaked. And while we certainly welcome anticipation for all of our upcoming titles, we're disappointed for our fans and for our development team that this conceptual asset is now public. The team in our Quebec studios have been hard at work on this particular game in question for the past few years, and we're excited to officially unveil what the studio has been working on at a later date. And meanwhile, our number one priority is enhancing the experience of Assassin's Creed Unity for players. If the assets and concept revealed by Kotaku reaches fruition, Victory will introduce a grappling hook mechanic. In the meantime, Ubisoft still has work to do on Unity, which has been one of this year's troubling launches. Whether Ubisoft presses ahead with its annual release for Assassin's Creed or takes a step back after Unity is still unknown. Given how far along these assets allegedly are, consumers shouldn't be surprised if next year brings more in this franchise. To me, the fans should not be trying to poke into the next Assassin's Creed game. Instead, the fans should be worrying about the stuff that's currently out right now that needs worked on, especially Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, recently they did an update where they try to fix like over 300 issues with the game, but that should be the main focus of not only Ubisoft but the fans, like I said. I mean, it's nice that somehow the new game got leaked, because instead of, fans asking, where they gonna go next, where they gonna go next, well, you kind of know. Now it's going to be set in Victorian England. Unfortunately, I don't think Ubisoft wanted people to know right away where it's going to be next. So the bad news is apparently some people are just too damn impatient. Capcom has announced release dates for the episodic Resident Evil Revelations 2 along with some new information. If you're a Sony player in the North America region, there's some good news, as Resident Evil Revelations 2 release day 1 ahead of everywhere else. Episode 1 is due for release on February 18th. Episode 2 comes February 24th. The third installment releases on March 3rd, and the final piece on March 11th. All episodes can be downloaded via the PSN, Xbox Live, or Steam. But if you're holding out for a disc-based release, that'll come to Europe on March 13th. As far as pricing goes, each episode costs about $5.99 a pop, or alternatively you can pick up the complete season option for $24.99, which will net you a lot. Should you opt for the complete season, you'll be granted access to additional content including 2 extra spin-off episodes that tell the story of Moria Burton and the newly announced Natalia Corda. You'll also be able to play as Hunk in raid mode. Should you choose to wait for the retail release, you'll get all the extra episodes and Hunk, and also Albert Wesker for raid mode, for alternative costumes, and the raid mode throwback stage pack, which features 4 stages from old school Res game. In November, we learned that Barry Burton would indeed be a playable character thanks to an ERSB leak. Capcom has confirmed the news. According to Capcom, the game features 2 playable storylines. Claire Redfield with Moria Burton, and also Barry Burton with Natalia Crota, a young girl who has the power to sense enemies and hidden item. Now, I don't have an issue with any of these release dates, except for the disc-based release that'll be coming to Europe on March 13th. That's Europe. It doesn't have anything for North America. March 13th is Friday here. So either here it'll be either March 10th or March 17th. And there's all this extra, info that you could say. One of which I kind of missed out on. It's the additional character Natalia Corda, if I say the name right. If I didn't, oops, sorry. But apparently some of these extra modes is like a raid mode, and then there's like going to be 2 characters you can play as extras. One for just getting the complete season, you can play as Hunk in the raid mode. Now if you wait for the retail release, you still get Hunk, but you also get Albert Wesker, along with alternate costumes and a raid mode throwback stage pack, which features 4, old school Resident Evil games, or 4 stages from Resident Evil games, which might include, could be the original mansion that you go through from the first game, could be some part of the Raccoon City, could be anything. And the game now has 2 storylines. So one storyline you play as Claire Redfield and Moria Burton, and then the other one you play as Barry Burton along with Natalia. Yeah, this will be an interesting game. From what I've seen and read about the game, it'll be more of a nod to the original Resident Evil type feel, which a lot of Resident Evil fans have been waiting for. Warner Bros. Interactive and Traveler's Tales Games have revealed a new piece of story DLC for LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham. This one definitely lives up to the game's name, bringing players to one of DC Comics' strangest locations. In the Bizarro World pack, Warner says players will join the Bizarro League to save Bizarro's planet from evil. As you can see in the image, the supergroup includes half-baked clones of the Justice League. It joins the previously announced Arrow Pack Story DLC, which is also due out for an early 2015 release. They're both part of the game's Season Pass, which is priced at $14.99, includes several previously release downloads. If you prefer your DLC a la carte, you can pick up each piece individually for $2.99. Players who are enjoying the game but aren't ready to spend any extra cash on it won't be left out. A free Heroes and Villainesses pack is also on the horizon, including characters like Starfire, Vixen, Plastique, and Killer Frost. Well, it seems that they are introducing, I guess, a Bizarro World into the LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham DLC Season Pass, in which case you get to play as the Bizarro Justice League, which is a bit weird. But it does say here that there's also some free DLC coming out for LEGO Batman 3 in the Heroines and Villainesses pack. Just recently, as far as, well, kind of like video game news and actual movie news, the Suicide Squad has been announced with the full cast, who the actual cast is going to be for the members of that, but at the same time, they also announced that there's going to be a Suicide Squad DLC for LEGO Batman 3 as well. LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham's roster will be growing further in early 2015, with the reveal that the Suicide Squad is joining the game, minus the word suicide. The story-based DLC will add new characters and vehicles to the game. According to Warner Brothers, the Squad DLC follows the group, including Deathstroke, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, Amanda Waller, and El Diablo, as they work to discover who has broken into Belle Rue's penitentiary. The download is part of the game's $14.99 Season Pass, just like with the recently announced Bizarro World DLC. If you don't want to pick up the Season Pass, but you're really into the squad, you can download it individually for $2.99. So, just as I'm recording the stuff for the previous LEGO Batman 3 DLC, we get more info on the squad. It's not just being called the Suicide Squad, it's being called the Squad, because apparently nobody wants to encourage suicide. But yeah, the Suicide Squad will include, or the Squad DLC will include Deathstroke, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, Amanda Waller, and El Diablo, as they work to discover who has broken into Belle Rue Penitentiary, which I know I probably got that pronounced wrong, so oh well. But yeah, this is also going to be part of the Season Pass, so if you already got the Season Pass, this is going to be free for you to download. But if you didn't, you can get this on its own for $2.99. And it says it'll be available early 2015, so maybe look between January to March-ish. Well, that's it for this episode of Action Video Game Talk. Once again, thanks for joining me today, or tonight, or whenever you're watching or listening to this episode. Later on, I'll have the separate clips up for the different news articles if you want to check those out. Down below, I'll have the link for the Facebook page if you want to check that out. So, until next time, bye!